We are live. How's it going today, Nick? We are live with Mr. Nick Alter with the Business Breakdown. Welcome to the show, man.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Austin, who'd you bring on? He has a cowboy hat on and he
Yeah,
says
I'm telling you,
howdy.
he's a character, man. I finally found the guy who has better fashion sense than me, but that's all right. I'm working on it. So
He's got you
we
beat.
got we, see. I don't even have it long enough because we're only in a 20-minute timeline to talk about how he has his hands in so many things. But just give a brief kind of understanding of what you do, Nick, and who you do it for everybody out there.
Sure. So easiest way to explain me is I'm a growth architect. Is a commonly used term that probably fits me pretty well. But not just growth. I architect a lot of things. I build a lot of systems and processes. But I'd say that the core of that is operationalizing growth. And then through that also just ideating on a lot of initiatives, seeing a lot of pain points, and helping connect the dots. That turns into businesses and organizations as well. So probably the most succinct way I can describe it.
That's awesome. And everyone watching, make sure to say hello to Nick down in the comments. We'll bring you up on the screen if you guys have any questions. But Austin's got a good topic for you today, Nick.
Love it.
Yeah. So basically, there's a lot of different ways we could go with this, but like marketing is shifting so quickly, and you have AI and ChatGPT. Like, what is wrong? A lot of our people that listen are business owners, CEOs, owners of companies, small business, home service. What is wrong with marketing as we stand here today in October?
Oh, fun. Am I allowed to start answering that, or
yes? Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I think it stems to the core of probably what I preach quite a bit, which is most people don't really know what it is. So the problem that I think that we have when we talk about marketing, quote unquote, in business, and it's really the growth side of business, is that if you were to go into an organization, if you were to ask 10 people randomly in a restaurant, I don't care, wherever you are, bar, and you said, okay, what is marketing to you? And they're all going to give you a different definition, right? And then if you go to organizations that actually have, they're more established even, they're going to have the same problem. You're going to have a bunch of people saying, no, this is what marketing is. And the problem that we have there is that it's like if you have 10 different functioning definitions of a term, then what are we tracking? What are we doing to do what, right? And so the problem that we face is that everybody thinks marketing is what they need it to be in their particular situation, right?
I thought you were going to actually give me the answer there. You must have went on a rant about this with you, Austin, because what is marketing? No one's ever asked me that.
Nobody does. And the thing is it goes back in, here's really what we just unpacked, or we really just kind of uncovered there. Haven't even unpacked it yet. Is there's that term. Now go down the list of all the other terms and terminology that we use when we talk about growth in an organization. And suddenly, I'll even say this. I don't think sales is even a term that most people really understand and can get around, right? Because at the end of the day, if we want for something to succeed, for it to grow, it's that we have to be able to measure it. But we can't measure things we can't define, right? And if we can't define it and we can't measure it, we can't control it. So what happens?
Is there an answer for marketing, or does everyone have a different answer based on their circumstance?
Sorry, say that again.
Is there a true answer to what marketing is?
Yes.
Let
me put it to you this way. I think that we have to put a flag in the sand, or put a line in the sand, put a flag on the hill somewhere. And so I spent 15 years basically building and running a marketing agency. I did digital marketing for about 15 years. I ran Alter Endeavors, little boutique shop here in Austin. At one point we had up to, I think, 18 employees, and ebbed and flowed, right? VSAM and stuff, did all that, and worked with about 1,000 different entities in that time. And what I came to realize was that marketing, that I finally was like, look, what if I just said, if I just went and took the definition back and just said the actual definition of marketing probably should be the actions we take to win our position at market.
Okay.
And so then, but what that requires is just that we need to know what it is exactly we're trying to win and what the positions of market really are, right? And so what I did is this is that just based on all the data points that I had and everything that I had going around with it, I said, here are the 7 stages of market that we find ourselves in when we're running a business, we're building a business at any given time, from end to end. The entire cycle of a business is just that we start with, it's like basically 0 to 1, 1 to a few, few to many, many to more, more to all, right? When we think about it. But my terminology was just that how do you go from existential, the idea stage, and then go from there to discovery or validation is what I call discovery. And then we go to adoption, mainstream adoption. And I started borrowing and looking at that there's all these experts out there that had little parts and pieces, or they had this section of what basically is the market maturity model that we really need to be looking at a larger scale or scope. And that's the other thing. Like, there's another word, scale, right? Everybody's like, oh, we're trying to scale. And you're like, you don't even know where does that term even come from? And what does that even mean, right? And it's this idea of like really what the majority of business is trying to achieve. 97% of every business founder owner out there today, what they're ultimately desperately trying to get to is not scale, because scale is not a position that we land in. Scale is a transitory state, right? Scale is how we go from one position to basically like to in typically, unfortunately, in like the VC world, we say scale is, it's like, how do I go? It's like, oh, you got this great idea. Now, how are you going to scale it? Yeah. And instead, my argument is that my flag in the sand is I'm like, hey, guys, how do we get to sustainability first? How do you get to a profitable, sustainable position in the market first that basically validates that we have something, that there is an audience, there's a market, that we have something that they need and want desperately. They either can't get anywhere else, or that it's really hard for them to go somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then basically, and then it was also about this idea of, it's like, but what is the blue dot of business? And the blue dot of business ultimately is, it's what we sell, right? It's our product or service, right? It's what we're offering. It's the solution that we're providing to somebody's, persistent problem. I forget who called it that, but I loved that term. I love the idea of, I think it was Paul O'Brien, and I don't know if he got it from somewhere else, but he said it's just like really what we're dealing with, and when we have a company, we have a business, is that it's because we have an answer that we think to what we think is a persistent problem.
Yep. Is that where systems come in?
So I think when we talk about operationalizing, I think you need different systems at every single of those stages, right? Yeah. That compound on one another. I don't think that we lack systems at the existential stage, or I should say it this way. I think that we need systems at the existential stage that we tend to lack, right? I mean, the most disturbing statistic that I've heard in the last several years was that less than 10% of all businesses created will ever see $1 million in annualized revenue. Like, that's wild to me. And then less than 10% of that number will see 3 in the lifetime of their business. I'm like, that's nuts. That's wild, right? And the thing is that tells me, and that tells all of us, that we're focusing on a lot of the wrong things that, to get businesses that are sub $1 million, sub 3 million up to where they need to get to, right?
Austin, how do they get there?
The problem is that one of the things that ties into this that I've been working on just personally and in my business coaching is that I think that we've taken words, right? Scale, marketing, revenue, imposter syndrome, and we don't know what they mean anymore, and society has changed them around. But the problem is that we as people, as business owners and people, have attached our identity to them, and now we're just lost at sea. And so we have to reshape and reprogram the way that we view everything. And somebody just posted 2 days ago, like to say that you want to scale as a company is the stupidest thing you could say in the world, because it means nothing.
I'm looking it up right now. So I feel like you have to have the systems in place. What you're saying, Nick, is have the systems in place, identify for your circumstance on the exactly what marketing is for you, but you need to find that blue dot as well.
Yeah, so it's basically you gotta. I mean, and by the way, the diagnosis. The hilarious thing is, this is that. I mean, heck, if there was a way to screen share, I'd show it to you. But there. I mean, I could even like what I did is I visualized those 7 stages, and I said, here are the priorities to the exclusion of all else that happens. You know, that you can say, here are these. You know, like here's what you need to prioritize. Here are the systems and the things that matter the most that you need to win at in order to win this position in the market. Meaning, how do I win existential? And now I'm not trying to go from existential to sustainability. Like the other mistake we make is that somehow like that we're going to skip some steps, right? And people they take these unique examples. Like somebody says, oh, well, you saw this, like this company, they just did the whole thing backwards. And the answer is like, no, they did not. They may have done it like insanely fast, or what they may be that, you know, that happened is that like we don't like, for the most part, like a lot of these groups, like if you go back and look at like the story of Lyft or even Uber, right? Or like I'm reading Pattern Breakers, right? I just read Pattern Breakers, and he talks about this, and I love the way that he codifies the idea of if like between category design and what I call is the uniquely better. So I have a perspective around that, right? And it's saying like, what is the system around how do you determine what's uniquely better about your offering? Not different, because different does not, I mean, all that is comparison. And what I need to know is that I have something that's compelling all on its own that a particular audience desperately needs, right? And how do we measure that? How do we start codifying those things?
Oh, I just put it at the bottom. Can you see the banner? It's selling products or services that people want or need, and then finding effective ways. I
think the word is desperately, right?
Desperately.
I think they desperately, like, because that's the thing is that when we talk about this idea of uniquely better, let's put it on a 10 scale, right? Like the 1 being like mildly interested, right? Or curious even. Yeah. Maybe mildly curious is a better word there, versus 10 being like, no, desperate desire, right? And when we see our ability, and obviously there's a narrative component that comes into play. This is our ability to articulate that desperate desire, so to speak. What is uniquely better about this? Suddenly, that's what dials in, and so it's like, you know, that's where you hit chords. And then what happens is we more often than not, we're drunk stumbling our way into it, when in reality, it's a very iterative process. And again, going back to things like, just because I've got Pattern Breakers top of mind, just thinking about what he was talking about with what happened to Twitch, and where, you know, how was it Jake TV, Jason, I don't know, whatever it was that, you know, that then led to what is now what we know to be Twitch. And I mean, just some extraordinary ways of how that iterative process can and should be pursued, right?
Came up with some bullet points. So in order to, let me know if you agree with this, research, learning what your audience needs or desperately needs, strategy, how to position, advertising, spreading the word, sales support, and customer relationships. This is just the definition of it. So
what if we looked at customer relationships and saying customer success, right? That, to me, it's like looking at that kind of like, and to go back to the first, what was the first one?
Research, desperately need.
And I would argue that, and then part of this is talking to your audience to learn what they desperately need or want.
Yeah.
I think that's so, to me, that's what's so damn funny is it's just that it's like, oh yeah, well, it's like, you know, I've done all this research. We have all this in. Like, yeah, have you talked to anybody though yet? Right. Mm. And there's a reason why I call it the existential stage, because it's that, what do you have? And like, do you have something that like, who cares? Right. What is it and who cares? And the reality is that we're actually terrified of staring the existential in its face, because we're terrified to find out that what we have, perhaps they don't really want. Mm. That's why we call it the existential, right?
Would you also say that if you did the research right and you have something that your audience desperately needs, mm-hmm. it would remove a lot of the sales needed?
I think that the idea should be on the, and by the way, a lot of, when we think about sales and sales support, right? The majority of founders, they find themselves in, at some point in their journey, they find themselves in the founder's trap. And unfortunately, most of them never make it out of it, right? I forget who used that term, but my understanding of founder's trap is that you have founder-dependent sales or founder-dependent revenue, and that the founder themselves, unfortunately, are what's most compelling about the offering. They're what's most compelling about the business, rather than the offering itself, right? And so it's being able to actually figure out, it's like, no, can I separate the offering and it's uniquely better from the founder in order to actually then say, because then that would drive down sales support dramatically, right?
Love it. I think, Austin, I can hear the birds chirping in the background.
Yeah, I
You
can
feel
too.
the green.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
nature going on over there.
There's a lot of nature. You know, I decided to get out behind the computer today. If you haven't explored the hill country of Austin, it's quite amazing. So I'm actually right next to our men's group, Nick.
Are you at Austin Ridge right now?
No, I'm at Barton. I'm at the resort. There's a biohacking conference going on. So,
Oh, you're at the Omni?
Yeah, I'm at the Omni. So,
Okay.
you know, before we get Nick out of here, because you and Brad and myself have very similar beliefs in faith and everything, Nick, could you, for a minute, as you lead an amazing men's group, could you, not to change up too much, but could you speak on how important community is,
Yeah.
especially for business owners who are faith-driven, but just in general?
No, amen. No, thank you. I'm super happy to talk about that. So when we think about, and by the way, I think one of the greatest things that's happening with AI right now is that it's forcing back to a lot of in-person community. I think that a lot of it's become a force function that it's like, are you even real? Are you even a real person? And then suddenly you've got the AI tools talking to the AI tools, and it's like real people are like, so what do we do, right? And so now suddenly that's forcing, it's like this you know, kind of this resurgence of people getting back together and actually being with people. But the men's group that I am blessed to be part of the leadership team with, the mission there is that how do we help Christian men be friends with other Christian men again, right? Because we suck at that. And I think that there's this weird anomaly that we've created in Western Christianity around how it's that we don't do community well here, right? We just don't. And it starts with, I mean, say what we will about today's, you know, social perspectives and things like that, but it starts with, it's like, can adult men, Christian men, learn how to be leaders and to be in community and be friends again with one another, right? And how do we love on each other, and how are we vulnerable, and how do we hold each other accountable, and what's the balance between accountability and, you know, what is healthy accountability, not unhealthy accountability, right? What is grace versus what is, you know, when is grit necessary, things along those lines. And so I think that we've done this incredible job of siloing out and separating. Like we've got especially unfortunately, like Boomer generation and even Gen X to some degree has done this extraordinary job of separating, like there's my business self from my faith self. And that really sucks, right? Yeah. And it's bled over into other aspects as well. Like, oh, here's my family self. That's also separate from, and here's my political self. That's also separate from. And as if somehow, I don't know where that model really came from, other than the enemy himself, because it creates this level of isolationism and this level of disconnectedness that has caused so much, you know, pain and loneliness and suffering. And I mean, it got real for me several years ago when one of the guys in our group, I mean, it was, you know, right in the middle of COVID. And dude, 3 kids, and I mean, healthy job, but he was isolated from his wife and his kids, and he was working remotely, and super creative guy. And I won't say exactly what, he was in a pretty prestigious position with an organization. And dude, I mean, turns out he's bipolar, and he had an episode, and he had COVID at the same time, and they kicked him out of the mental health facility because he had that during that in chaos, and turned off his phone and went and hung himself. Right.
Man.
I mean, and left 3 kids under the age of 18 at home without a dad. And it's
That's
like,
sad.
this stuff's real. And I mean, the same thing for affairs, the same thing for, that's real downfall, right? That's life and death stuff. And I think the same thing is true what we're doing like with NCS and like our men's ministry. And my whole thing is like, I don't care which of these ministries you're in, just be in something. We're in not just going to a Sunday morning show over at the church, but where you're actually in authentic, real conversation with other Christian folks that are in the same kind of life position that you're in.
Yep.
And you guys need to unpack your rocks. You got to get your rocks out of that bag, and you got to look at them together and be like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Because it's through community. That's all Jesus was like. He's like, look, you're going to screw all this other stuff up. Please just love each other and love God. Love God most. Love each other. And, as I've loved you. And that's it. That's what we're here to do. Right.
That's awesome. We actually opened an office here in Wilmington, and more people are coming in, getting to meet face to face and building that community. So it's super powerful. Appreciate
Amen.
you sharing that, Nick.
I love it.
Let's
So
go. And we need more of that.
go ahead. Yeah, before we get you out of here, if people want to track you down or the company, how would they find it?
And it's been rolling across, I think, this whole thing underneath this whole time. Foundersbestfriend.com is an easy way to find me. Thriveside.com is an easy way to find me. You can just find me on LinkedIn pretty easily. I wear the same cowboy hat everywhere, so it kind of it's my most distinguishing feature, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the easiest way to do it.
Appreciate you being here and sharing that. That was pretty cool. And thanks for sharing that last part too.
Oh, amen. Happy to. We didn't even get to talk about Switchboard. You want to see something really cool? You should go check out Switchboard Global. That was that's probably one of the most exciting things that we're doing today.
We'll have you on another episode and we'll talk just about that. How about that?
I love that. Yeah, let's do it. All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks
ya.
everyone for joining. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next stream.